this isn't necessarily ethically sound, but I mean, you know, I'm driving. I talk when I drive sometimes. So we're not fucking hydroplane. Okay, so I'm going to get some Chipotle because I fucking adore Chipotle, and I'm not eating the meatloaf we made tonight. So I'm just doing some of the questions that I remember off the top of my head. And I meant to answer this one in the fucking mayoral video, but that video got so long so quickly that there's no reasonable way that I was going to slam it in there. And it asked the question, why am I a liberal? Now, I think that's a bit of a broad term. I'm a Wallaceist, personally, following in the beliefs of Henry Wallace. But I understand, you know, not everyone's here to pick apart parties like a bunch of leftists. So I understand, you know, it's kind of like the minarchist, anarchist, all of the divisions that those branches have. Jesus Christ knows they have too many. I can't even keep track of them. But it asks why. And it's a fair question. I used to be a Republican. I was a big-time Republican, and it was actually... Oh, wow, the thing melted. That's funny. I used to be a big-time Republican. Why did that change? And I could give you some cheesy answer. I think it's going to keep falling. I could give you some cheesy generic response. I could give you a heartfelt one. So I'm just going to give you my progression. When I was younger, I was definitely a Republican. Now, granted, a lot of this came from the fact that my father has always been a party line Republican voter. Outside of a few times where he went libertarian, my mother, she usually just chooses to abstain from elections, which I don't judge her. Sometimes it really is a too evil situation. So Trump won, that is 2016 Trump. I very much did support him, both to piss people off because I loved pissing people off, and also because, you know, my dad supported him, so I supported him. But the thing is, funny things kept happening where there was these dehumanizing moments throughout that administration that slowly but surely compiled to make me question, why am I supporting this? This isn't the party of Teddy Roosevelt. This isn't the party of Thomas Dewey. There's no pride here. There's no compassion here. Why am I supporting this party? Is it purely because that's what my family supports? And so I sat down, and slowly but surely my views started moderating. Now obviously this is cutting to probably 8th grade. Middle schoolers go through every single corner of the political compass. Let's be completely candid and honest with ourselves. You know, they read a Wikipedia article one day and the next day they're whatever they read. So, not counting that phase, this is the first time I had solidified politics. So after that point, I became a never Trumper. Obviously I've never had the chance to vote, sadly, but I made it very clear that I would not support him in 2020. It didn't mean that I liked Biden, though he's a very fascinating candidate, and I'll talk about him sometime. But basically, I was happy with anyone who wasn't Trump, especially as he bungled COVID, especially as people I cared about started getting hurt by it. And one thing that really did push me further and further away from the far right side of the party was increasingly I would have friends come out to me. You know, a lot of people saw me as kind of a therapist type, and I have no issue with that. That's, you know, if it makes you happy, great for you. You know, if you want to talk to me, I'll try and be a shoulder. Now, obviously, I'm not nearly as much as a weeping heart as I used to be, because it's unhealthy to do that to yourself. You matter. Take care of yourself before you help others, because if you can't help yourself, you're not going to be much use to them. So what ended up happening was, you know, I had a few friends come out as gay to me or bisexual to me, and then I had a friend come out as trans to me. And I was always pretty, what's the wording I'm looking for? I was always fine with gays, lesbians, bisexuals, all of those. But I'd never quite understood trans people. To me, it was utterly confusing. I remember talking to my mother about it one time, you know, because after the friend came out to me, I go, oh, I've got a friend who was born a boy, but has become a girl because of, like, something, right? And I thought it was like a genetic thing. I thought that this was some type of, you know, intersex thing, but I was wrong. I was very wrong. And so I did what any reasonable, responsible person would do. I started asking questions. I started asking, well, what about this? How does this work? You It's the same way that I came around really on most things. Another great example, when I was in Boy Scouts, I had a troop mate who was gay. His father didn't know, we think his mother did, but his father, very much homophobic. And we all, were there for him. We supported him. Even when his father got pissy with him, even when his brother got pissy with him too. We were there to say, hey, we see you, we like you, you're our friend, why would we give a shit if you're gay? I ended up playing, it was meant to be 20 questions, but really it turned into about 20 million questions over the course of a week, up in a trip in Minnesota. But, I'm getting off topic. When that friend came out to me as trans, I decided to try and understand them. I wanted to know why. What was it? Gender dysphoria? Was it a mental health issue? What was it? And slowly but surely I came to understand, no, this is just how they're happiest. They're happier, as a girl or as a boy. And fuck, who am I to say no to someone else's happiness? I'm not the master of anyone else's joy, and I never should be. And so I sat down and I said, I can't logically support Trump. There's just too much hatred in his side of the party. So, 2024, I'll be honest, early days, I was very much a Nikki Haley Republican. I thought that some of her more moderate stances would make her a better pick. And then, obviously, that didn't go right. So I finally swallowed the pill and I started looking at the other side and I said, Joe, you haven't done bad for us. You really haven't done bad for us. So, tell me, should I vote for you? And obviously after the primary mess, Harris ends up the nominee. And, I sat down and I realized this is the party of compassion, the party of care. And I like that. I feel at home there, I've gone to plenty of Republican rallies, I've gone to plenty of Democratic rallies, but the difference is the community when you get there, Republican conventions, it's old men in stuffy suits. There's no joy, there's no jubilation beyond celebration of a candidate. But at a Democratic convention, everyone's there to support each other. Even if they don't 100% agree with one another, they're there for each other. It's not where, right now, the big beautiful bill in Congress, right? Tom Tillis, right, was getting threatened with a primary. I mean, he's not running for re-election ultimately, but he was getting threatened with a primary because he originally wouldn't vote for it. And I don't think any party that's that batshit inane about saying, hey, this is a flawed bill, so I'm not going to support it, and then immediately threaten a primary, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. And, obviously the Democratic Party has so many flaws, by rejecting Wallace in 1944, by rejecting Sanders in 2016, by foolishly wasting Obama in 2008. God bless him, but really, I think it would have been for the best of the country if Clinton had won that primary, because it would have saved Obama for later, but, that's classical old history conversations. Would you please go around me? Thank you. I want to get over this guy. And... Oh, where was I? Shit. I hope he's alright. Yeah, okay, he looks alright. He might just be taking a little nap. See, I keep getting lost. That's what I get. I was talking Tillis. I was talking primaries. Oh, right. Wallace in 44. Sanders in 16. Granted, Clinton in 08 necessarily isn't a mistake of the party. Now, granted, also in 2000, one day I'll talk about all the elections that I have very strong opinions on. 2000 is one of them. But I really did sit down and say, I don't think I can consciously support Republicans. And I say Nikki Haley Republican, but truthfully, in that period, I was already a Democrat. I just wasn't willing to admit it, When you're so ingrained in one way of thinking and in identification with one single entity, it's hard to change that. It's hard to step away and say, maybe the other guys are all right, And I'm seeing it happen a lot, with this big, beautiful bill. I've seen people who normally are party line Republican voters threatening to vote Democrat over this bill. It's amazing. So all I'm trying to say here is I chose it because it's the party of compassion. And that compassion is reflected in its policy. Is it the party of spending? Yes. but it's the party of spending to help people. And shit, if you're telling me that I have to pay a little more in my taxes to make sure some kid doesn't go hungry, fuck it. You can take half my goddamn paycheck and I'll be happy. Alright? Really, I will be. Because it's about more than myself. And human life is beautiful. Why should I make it so someone else suffers because of my own greed, because of my own hatred? It doesn't make any sense. And I'm not saying all Republicans are that way. There's good people in both parties. There's bad people in both parties. Jesus Christ knows that. But, you know, at the end of the day, we're going for it. At the end of the day, I'll vote Democratic 100 times out of 100. I can't consciously support him anymore. You know? And to some degree, it's a shame that it happened to the Republican Party. They used to be the progressive party. You had Teddy Roosevelt, Gifford Pinchot, you had trust busting in the national parks. And now you've got people threatening to let corporate America take over and destroy the National Park Service. It's illogical. So, no, in no way can I support Republicans. And that's why I'm a liberal, because a third party doesn't exist anymore, not that's viable. And so, I place my vote on the one people who I think can make some difference. And I happen to think that those are Democrats. So, thanks for hanging out for this short one. I'll be doing more content eventually. I'm letting you guys ask me some more questions though. And of course, anything that happens to pop up in the course of me thinking of something. So, you folks take care out there. And remember, compassion conquers. It really fucking does. Stay safe.